What's up, everyone, and welcome to Clear Talk. So, in light of us going into a 2-week ceasefire deal, kind of, I thought I would go over, do a video going over these point plans, okay? The U.S. 15-point plan and the Iranian 10-point plan, and what those actually entail of, and why there's so much of a conflict there, why they can't agree, why they seem to not mesh very well, and what of these, what points in these could potentially be agreed upon. All right. So thank you very much for joining me here at Clear Talk. If you are new here to the channel, welcome. If you would like to check out more videos to the channel, please do so. Consider subscribing, like, share, comment, all that good stuff to get more videos and more in front of more people. It's free for you, helps out the channel tremendously. Please consider that. If you would like to check out videos from my other channels, you have JMD there, Play and Puzzling. If you like what you see there, consider subscribing to those as well. Again, free for you, helps out tremendously. If you would like to go further, Patreon there, $3 a month. You can help support any of the channels that you would like to help grow those channels, help grow Patreon, help grow the JMD Nation, and contribute to that growth how you would like to. That would be amazing, and any contribution support you give is very much appreciated, and I thank you very much. Sorry. And if you are returning, you are freaking amazing, okay? I will tell you that every time. You're amazing. Thank you for coming back. Keep coming back, because you are what makes JMD Nation. Okay, so. So, yeah, we have the ceasefire that was agreed upon. You have Trump claiming victory in this and claiming all these different things that we got the Strait of Hormuz opened up, and everything's lining up right. We've got their a basis of their plan that we can work with in negotiations. Iran is saying that they have seen, in light of the 15-point plan and the acceptance of the 10-point plan. That was Iran's big thing, the acceptance of the 10-point plan from the U.S., that we would go into this agreement. Now, again, I stressed in the previous video, this is only between the U.S. and Iran. And while there's been argument from the administration that Israel is a part of this, I haven't seen still yet where any kind of official release from Israel that they actually agree to this, to any of this. So now I could be wrong. Maybe it has come out and I haven't seen it, but for me, I haven't seen it. But anyways, so what we have is we have Pakistan working in the middle, okay, as the negotiator, as the middleman between the two nations. And we have a 15-point plan that the U.S. has presented to Iran, okay, and then Iran has released a 10-point plan that has been given to the U.S. Both of these plans have been given to the other and has been in the negotiations for weeks now. This is not new plans, okay? These are not new things that were sent to Iran for this specific ceasefire. This is not new things from Iran for this specific news. This is the same stuff that they have been negotiating about for weeks now, okay? So this is what's crazy about this. We've already had the threats from the administration a couple weeks ago or a week ago or so. Then that got pushed back, and then another threat again. That got pushed back for a whole week, and then he threats again for another 40. And both of them were 48-hour threats. They both have been pushed back. Nothing has changed about these agreements. So it's really, really making Trump look very unserious here. But what is a part of these plans? All right, so first off, we're going to go over the 15-point plan from the U.S. Now, keep in mind that the actual official release any kind of official documentation of the plan has not been released from the administration. This administration is like gung ho on trying to hide and be secretive about all like official, quote unquote, like special ops kinds of things or whatever. Like they just don't want. But from what has been basically broke down in media coverage, in interviews and things like that, people have been able to pretty much kind of put together what they are assuming or presume that in the best possible way, what has been given in the facts of what things like Trump has said, what things like, I guess, Hegseth has said, and others, what this 15-point plan is. So, number one is a ceasefire, okay? A temporary ceasefire reported 30 days to allow negotiations. So a 30-day ceasefire. Now, this is for the proposal if accepted after this 2 weeks, okay? So in 2 weeks, they will have a meeting together to go over like the finalizing of a peace agreement, as long as both sides agree to terms to come together for a peace agreement, that is. What the U.S. is asking for is a 30-day ceasefire to allow for negotiations. So even in this, we're starting off with a peace plan that is only a temporary ceasefire, okay, for further negotiations. This is, for me, the same type of tactic that Israel kept doing on Hamas with Gaza. They kept doing this. We'll do a temporary ceasefire to further negotiations, and we'll have these phases of negotiations. And this feels like phase one, or maybe even at this point phase 2 or 3, but nevertheless. But you never really get to an agreement, right? You just keep somehow moving the goalpost until there's no agreement. But anyways, what they're asking, what has been brought is a ceasefire for 30 days to allow negotiations. Number 2, and probably the biggest demand and the one that is the most unacceptable to Iran, is the nuclear program dismantling, okay? And these breakdowns here are part of like the 15s. There's going to be 9 main ones, and then there will be a couple of them that have little breakdowns, and that all adds up to 15. So you have shut down key facilities like Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan, okay? So shutting down these nuclear programs. These are the ones that were already previously bombed over a year ago. But completely shutting down those facilities, end uranium enrichment entirely, okay? The U.S. is asking for absolutely no enrichment of uranium whatsoever, even though UN national, laws and stuff like that, or acceptance is any like sovereign country has the right to enrich uranium to a certain percentage to allow for like domestic use, okay, for energy. Every country has that right. But what the U.S. is asking is zero, absolute zero enrichment, which is illegal to ask under international law. So that automatically is like going to be a hard pass by any nation, much less Iran. Hand over enriched uranium stockpiles to international control. So they have these stockpiles that are, relatively uranium enriched upwards of 60%. And there's a certain amount of it. And so we're wanting them to turn over that amount. So not only no longer in any enriched uranium, but what uranium you have enriched, we want it all turned over to the international controls. So complete removal of uranium from those sites in the country at large. and allowing full international inspections. Okay. Of these facilities, I'm assuming from like now to oblivion, full international inspections to make sure and guarantee that there is zero enrichment in any location. Period. Okay, that's what I'm assuming is what that means. Missile restrictions, limit or scale back ballistic missile programs. Now, this one's kind of weird because Trump has said zero ballistic missiles. But in some cases, if apparently it's being said from some, at least limited or scaling back, reducing those ballistic missile programs. To what degree it's being asked to limit or scale back, I don't think we generally know. But this is one where I feel Iran probably would, at least to some degree, agree on, like, potentially being like, okay, yeah, we're still going to make ballistic missiles, but we'll reduce how many we make, right? They could potentially agree to some degree of this one. But 2, no, they're not going to agree to this whatsoever. Number 4, stop support for proxy groups, okay? Ending backing of groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. I seriously doubt this will be agreed upon. And there's only one exception that I think Iran would consider ending any kind of support or backing of these groups. And that would be if one of the concessions from the 10-point Iranian plan were actually agreed upon by the U.S. And we'll get to that one in a moment. But there is a potential for that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Regional de-escalation. Stop attacks on oil infrastructure and shipping lanes. Okay, here's one problem I have with this, is they were not doing this. This was not something that they were doing before you went to war with them. Okay? This is something that they have done in defense and retaliation by what we or Israel have attacked on them. And that's the key. That's what I want to continuously emphasize. Iran has always attacked in a defensive in a defensive manner. They have never initialized attacks. It's Israel and the U.S. that initialized attacks every time, last year and now. So that's the key thing. That's something that this is really frustrating about this. Reduce military activity across the Middle East, meaning, which would go part and parcel with the supporting for the proxy groups. You're reducing military activity, and the U.S. considers Hezbollah, Hamas, and Houthis in the guerrilla groups in Iraq and whatever as extensions of Iran. So therefore, any actions that they decide to do is considered military actions by Iran in the Middle East, which is not how that actually works. But nevertheless, these groups act on their own. If anything, Iran actually holds and resists them. These are independent groups that they do get backing by Iran. They are given, weapons and stuff, just like we do with Israel. Okay, let's be honest here. This is a tit for tat thing. All right, you can't argue that they should not, back groups that are defending their name. Because it's not any different from us backing Israel that we claim defends in our name as well, and we defend in their name. It's a a cohesive thing there. Same thing with Iran here. Iran really just has done the same playbook that we have been doing for decades with the access of resistance that Iran has with Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and other groups, minor groups. So it's anyways, that's the reduction of military action. The Strait of Hormuz access guarantee free navigation for global shipping. Another thing that was not existent before this war. Iran did not have any kind of control over the Strait of Hormuz before. It was kind of, I guess you could say, managed to some degree by them and Oman because they have like rights to the strait, but they didn't have any like monetary or any kind of militant or any kind of economic control over it. It was a free flowing area, but now it's not. And so it's like this was not even a problem before we started this war, and yet we're having to negotiate out of this problem. All right, but that one also is I don't know. That's something we'll talk about in a second too. Sanctions relief, U.S. concessions, gradually lifting of U.S. sanctions on Iran. This one is very interesting to me as well because it has been this whole thing for so long. The reason why Trump got out of the original Iran nuclear agreement that Obama orchestrated was because we lifted sanctions on them. Like that was been the whole thing. Oh, we should not have given them their money back and we should not have lifted sanctions. Like the Republicans have always argued for sanctioning the hell out of Iran. So this is weird for me that we are giving them concessions that if they agreed to, of course, this is probably in lockstep that everything else is agreed to. But nevertheless, that we would even like say, okay, we will consider, lifting sanctions on you if you like. That was the whole point in the first one, in the first agreement. And it's the same thing we've talked about with when it comes to Trump. He breaks things just to turn around. And if he does decide to go back into an agreement of it, it's usually the same damn thing, but he just tries to take credit for it. That, oh, I created this. I made this, and it's a better version now than what it previously was, when in all reality, it's basically the exact same damn thing. Number 8, economic and civilian incentives. Okay, so that is possible support for civilian nuclear energy, like the Pashir plant. Not sure what that. That feels like, if you allow us to come in and assist you on your nuclear energy plants, then and give us access to them, then that one seems kind of weird. Economic reintegration of Iran, if Iran complies. So basically, allowing Iran back into the global economy by lifting sanctions, by lifting access for them and other countries to trade with them, because we have sanctions on that as well, so that they can then work more in the global economy and build their economy back up like it was. Again, all things that were previously in the other agreement, under Obama's agreement. Insane. Monitoring and enforcement, long-term inspections and verification mechanisms, likely international oversight, the IAEA style monitoring. Again, the same things that were under Obama's Iran nuclear deal. This is like the only difference here is that we are asking them to not just reduce and stay within a certain percentage of uranium enrichment. We are telling them to zero uranium enrichment. So this is damn near the exact plan from before, except for we are asking them. We are basically trying to force them to zero uranium enrichment, and of course, no longer supporting any kind of proxy groups. That's the only other really difference that we have here. Okay. So this plan has been widely described as a maximalist plan, meaning it asks Iran to give up almost everything strategically important to it. Iran's counter plan is basically the exact opposite: keep nuclear enrichment, remove sanctions, and reduce U.S. presence in the region. And that's what we're going to go over here. All right. So that was the 15-point plan. So basically, if you agree to us and what we're asking, then we will start to relieve you and blah, blah, blah. Here is Iran's 10-point peace plan. No more attacks on Iran. The U.S. must guarantee no aggression going forward. And this is like, their ask is period. No more attacks on Iran from the U.S., period. Number 2, Iran keeps control of the Strait of Hormuz. Okay? And this is Iran trying to guarantee themselves economically. Okay, this is them trying to like, hey, we see the benefit of us actually controlling this, even in the worst of times, because we are benefiting this by the fact that we can charge for people coming through here. And that's been what they're saying. What we want is we want to keep control of this. We will charge a toll, and they've even said that they will basically split it with Oman, which helps out Oman and them. And Oman could probably use the help, honestly. Iran maintains military control and authority over the strait. Now, this one's something that the global politics of this is more than likely not going to accept. But this is also something that could potentially Iran could let go of as long as they got a lot of other things agreed to, I would think. I'm thinking this is just like if you don't agree to the rest of this, then we're just going to maintain, because they got control of it right now anyways. So this is one that I think that they will probably let go of as long as they got guarantees on other points. Nuclear enrichment allowed. The U.S. must recognize Iran's right to enrich uranium. And, I mean, that's a simple ask. That is an absolute simple ask, because under international law, they do have the right to enrich uranium. The U.S. cannot try to forcibly restrict them from doing so. It just can't. Which is something that the U.S. is going to have to drop. There is no way in the world that anything on this is going to be acceptable if they don't drop this. I mean, this is, again, it's against an international law. So they to even ask this is just stupid. It's absolute stupid. It's like a no go from the get go. I mean, it's not. It's 4 or 5, end primary sanctions. All sanctions removed. In primary sanctions, direct U.S. restrictions, and in secondary sanctions, penalties on other countries doing business with Iran. So this is, no, we're not going to. We don't agree to you little by little, lessening sanctions. We want complete removal from day one. Removal of all sanctions. Period. Allow us wholeheartedly into the economy so we can do business like everybody else. And I am, for one, in complete agreement here. I do not agree on sanctions whatsoever. I do not like sanctions. I think sanctions are absolutely ridiculous. I don't even think sanctions should be allowed unless under like extreme cases. They certainly need to meet a much higher bar than they do right now. 6 and 7, international. I'm sorry, that didn't. International restrictions lifted, removal of all UN Security Council sanctions and resolutions, and end IAEA nuclear oversight resolutions. Now, this one possibly could work, could happen. This one's something that's not going to, though. And I don't even think Iran is going to hold to this, because I mean, in the previous one they agreed to oversight. I think as long as they are allowed to their enrichment that they have a right to, I think that there is a good chance that they are not going to worry about the oversight. That will be a part of them complying, just like they previously did. But I mean, they're going to push. I understand both sides are going to push to the extremes that they can. But the idea is that you eventually come to the middle. You stop, harping on these extreme things that nobody would agree to. And then you just agree on the things that we will agree to and accept it and move on. Like, that's the way it normally works. The problem is like the determination by some parties to not agree to those things, to want those extreme things so strongly that there's no agreement. There's no coming to the middle. There's no what is the word? Not conceding, but whatever. Anyway, all right, so let's go on. War compensation. The U.S. must pay damages to Iran for war losses. This one's more than likely not going to happen either. I think this is just them like poking at the bear a little bit. Although there could be a degree of like, okay, look, I could see where the U.S. could agree to pay damages to infrastructure in places that could arguably be war crimes. Okay, and that could be one way that they even get out from underneath the like blanket of, okay, we committed war crimes by bombing a bridge, by bombing a school, by bombing a hospital. The damage, or even bombing close to those residents, and there be damage to those infrastructures, or even any residential areas, whatever. I could see where the U.S. could potentially say, hey, we will help to give some funding to help rebuild, or even if it's like we will send construction crews to help rebuild those infrastructures, because that was our bad. But also on the flip side of that, there will be some that be like, okay, well, if we repair you, then you repair us. But I think that's ridiculous, because the U.S. and Israel started this, and it is blatantly clear and obvious to everybody that that is the case. That's the reason why nobody has been willing to join in and include themselves in this whole excursion, as they keep trying to call it. Number 9, U.S. military withdrawal. Full withdrawal of U.S. forces from the Middle East. Okay, this is the one that I said that I was going to talk about in reference to this one. Okay, stop support for proxy groups. The only way I see Iran potentially agreeing to stop assisting these groups is if the U.S. in some form or fashion, agrees to at least some kind of partial withdrawal from the region. Now, if the U.S. would say, okay, look, all right, what we will do, we will keep a couple installations in these key countries that we, consider allies and we do work with and we have a deal to protect, okay? But this certain amount of installations that are just kind of overkill and extra, we will remove forces from. If the U.S. was to do that, be like, look, we'll have one installation in this country, one installation in this country, one installation in this country. Say like, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, maybe even all of them, maybe Kuwait, Qatar, whatever. Like if we have one installation in each one of them, which some of those we do only have one in, but then some we have multiple in. Some of them is probably unnecessary, honestly. But if we were to be like, okay, we will reduce these number, this one, like pick a number, reduce, or even a percentage. We'll reduce maybe not even closing actual facilities down, but at the very least removing the percentage of forces that we have at each facility, like literally reducing the number of individuals there, of soldiers there, or until whatever. If we were to be like, we will decrease our presence by whatever 50%. Then you might have a case where Iran goes, okay, then if you will do that, then we will agree to no longer supply weapons and whatnot to this resistance of access. But also, I feel like the only way they would potentially agree to that is if the very first point is agreed to. No longer attacking Iran. And I think that Iran is even going to press that not only from the U.S., but from U.S.'s extension proxy, Israel. All right? Because Israel at this point is just an extension of the U.S. And when they say no U.S. aggression, they also mean Israel. And that's going to be the hardest one, to get Israel to agree to never attack Iran again. Or the proxies. If you have an instance where everybody agrees to not attack anybody, all right, Israel in the U.S. agrees to never attack Hezbollah again, never attack Hamas again, never attack the Houthis again, never attack any of the Iraqi guerrilla groups there, or the ones in Syria, or the one anywhere that we have previously been. If everybody was to agree that they would not attack these areas again, and in turn, those areas would not attack them, because that's the other thing. These groups, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, all of these proxies, they basically, to some degree, in most cases, did the exact same as Iran. They did not attack until defensive measures were needed, until they were attacked upon. And it was always Israel doing the attacking. Israel would attack Hezbollah, and then Hezbollah would attack back. Israel would attack Hamas in Gaza, and Hamas would attack back. Israel would attack the Houthis, and his Houthis would attack back. This is Israel would attack, or the U.S. would attack Iraq groups, and they would attack back. Now, some of the ones in Iraq are a little bit more hostile. Some of those little small groups, because they're like guerrilla gangs, they're a little bit more hostile. They tend to do stuff way more crazy than the other groups. Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas are a little bit more controlled, a little bit more like ideological and theoretical in like the way they conduct themselves, a little bit more professional to some degree in the way they conduct themselves, because they want to be considered legitimate. But I think that's going to be the agreement. If everybody agrees, oh, when you don't attack us, we want to attack you, everybody's good, then we will stop helping them. You reduce your numbers. Everybody is showing this is like a collective de-escalation. Then maybe this could happen. End of all fighting everywhere. And this just is a continuation of what I was talking about. Complete halt of all hostilities, including conflicts involving Iran's allies like in Lebanon. So there across multiple reports, Iran also ties other little things, release of frozen Iranian assets, which would really go into the sanctions relief. A binding UN-backed agreement, so it not just being an agreement by the U.S., Israel, Iran, whatever, but an actual full-on UN-backed, so every single country is agreeing on this contract to enforce it upon these groups. I think that's a good idea. Continued or coordinated control over the over shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. This one, again, is going to be a complicated one for them. Iran's plan is basically the mirror opposite of the U.S. 15 plan. The U.S. wants dismantling the nuclear dismantling nuclear plus limiting Iran's power. And Iran wants to keep the nuclear program and remove all pressure. So they're basically the exact opposite. All right. In simple terms, the U.S. plan, you give things up, we ease sanctions. Iran's plan is you remove everything first, then we stop fighting. So that's basically what we have here. And again, I think that as we went over, I tried to go over the possibilities of what could work in each plan, what could be agreed upon. But the one absolute is that for the U.S. is we can't continue to ask to dismantle the nuclear program. That's just a no-go from the start. There's no way they will ever agree to that. No country would. It's a ridiculous request. That's the reason why Obama's Iran nuclear deal was, maybe it wasn't completely perfect, but it was pretty damn close. Like, they were actually complying. They were keeping within a certain percentage, which I think was somewhere around 25%, somewhere in that give or take range there, that they were allowed to enrich. And the IAEA was coming in frequently. Every time they would do an audit, they were complying. They were showing to be complying to all of that. They weren't enriching over the percentage, and they were staying within. They were 100% passing audits. Contrast that with, the Pentagon for the past 8 years, inability to pass any audit. Zero, zilch, 60% or more of funding unaccounted for. Have no clue where that money went or what it, or at least that's the claim, or that, cannot pass an audit. Iran was passing the nuclear audits. Scaling back ballistic programs, probably. They probably could do that. They could probably agree with that. Again, with the proxies, potentially, if everybody was to agree to de-escalate in the region, Israel included, which again, that is like the big asterisk on all of this, is Israel agreeing to this, which goes completely against everything Israel has been trying to do here. Because Israel literally wants complete destruction of Iran. And it would take the U.S. going, look, little dude, enough is enough, okay? You tried, but it's not working. It's not working. And you're just going to have to accept what you have. Period. And it's going to take the U.S. actually doing that. Look, you either agree to this, or we will actually put you down. We will cut off. We will make you lesser than you are. The only reason why you are where you are is because of us. Now, Trump won't do that. I think we all know why. But, I mean, it would have to take us telling Israel no. Of course, then you still have the risk of Israel just going full ass rogue and saying, fuck the United States, we're going to do what we want. And then it's going to be, I don't even know. I don't even know what would happen then. The Strait of Hormuz, again, I think that can be worked out if all other points of relief are given to Iran. You know, if we release sanctions and lift those, helping them get, and allow them back on the economic stage and all that kind of stuff so they can grow their economy, they can get access to the funding that's been frozen, which is their money, then I think that they would probably be willing to give up the Strait of Hormuz and allow it to go free-flowing like it did before we started this. I don't see where I don't see where that they would not really just agree to that. The agreements on Iran for payment, again, I think that is... I think the U.S. Owes them that, quite frankly. Anything that we committed that would be considered a war crime, I think, again, that would help us on the international stage if we were to be like, okay, look, yeah, we acknowledge that we blew some shit up that we shouldn't have, and so we're going to assist in blank way, whatever, in having those infrastructures rebuilt. I think that'll be, reasonable and would probably get everybody or anybody off the case of war crimes, reparation, basically. But yeah, it's literally going to have to come to... Iran does not want to be threatened anymore in any manner, not militarily, not economically. They want to be able to be who they are and have the freedom on the international stage like everybody else, as they have a right to do. You may not like their theocracy. You may not like the way that they govern. But they, like everybody else, has a right to the free market and to trade as everybody else does. Because understand that not everybody likes our way of working either. Not everybody is going to agree. You can't have everybody agreeing to everybody's government. Or rather, one government style being agreed to by everybody. That's what I meant. Everybody has their own way of governing. And as long as the people majoritively accept that, I mean, it just is what it is. So, that's all they're really asking for. That's all they've been asking for decades now. while we have held them down. And they have continued to have threats from Israel. The threats haven't really necessarily come from the U.S. so much as it has Israel. And that, again, is the big asterisk there, is Israel. Israel is the big part of this. Their determination to dominate and to grow and to create that greater Israel, that Zionist Jewish ideology, is their downfall and is what has caused so much chaos and instability in the Middle East. I mean, it's really the only reason why other countries have ultimately became quote unquote allies with us, is because we are guaranteeing their safety from both Israel and quote unquote Iran. But anyways, so yeah, let me know what you think. There is a way out. There is a path out, but it would have to be the U.S. quite literally giving up on the like hardcore things that we are asking. And Iran's really only asking their hardcore stuff because of what we're asking. If we were to cut out the whole nuclear question and just free them up, free their sanctions up, let them be, I think everybody would be fine. Now, that's not to say that Iran won't then continue, like full-fledged, try to get a nuclear weapon. Because I see no possibility of a future where Iran does not do that. After what we've done, there's just no possible future where Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. If nothing else, just one. And you can't blame them. You honestly can't blame them. Because that would be the only ultimate deter of Israel and the U.S. It's no different from China, Russia, North Korea, or anybody else. So, Israel. So, yeah, I mean, we've quite literally brought this upon ourselves. We had an agreement previously that prevented them from getting a nuclear weapon. An agreement along with the then standing supreme leader, who on his own had a religious fatwa, a religious law against nuclear weapons. Those two together prevented Iran from getting nuclear weapons. They literally had a law, a religious law against it. And the Obama nuclear deal just sort of gave a U.S. guarantee to that fatwa. And they were abiding by it. Then Trump ripped it up in his first administration. Threw them back under sanctions. Biden failed to do anything about that, which was a horrible fail on his part. And then what we have now, we've gone to war with them over something that any other nation, you would be like, I understand why. If the roles were reversed, you'd be like, this is the reason why we need nuclear weapons. If we were to put ourselves in the place of Iran, and Iran was us, the U.S. would be wanting the same thing that Iran is asking. Whenever something like this happens, you've got to put yourselves in the other's position. And then realize that somewhere in the middle is the only answer. The hardcore extremes are not going to do anything. Gonna have to give up something. And when you have, again, if it was the opposite, if Iran was the power and we were the one that was constantly being held down by them, what we act like they've done, but whatever, constantly being held down, and they were constantly attacking us, or that they started attacking us, even though we were, not trying to enrich. We did not have a nuclear weapon. We weren't trying to have one, but yeah, they kept claiming we did, and they bombed us because of it. Bombed schools, bombed hospitals, killed children. I mean, there's no way in the world we would turn around and be like, okay, yeah, we'll give up everything. We'll let you, we will not have any kind of defensive measure so that you can just come bomb us whenever you want, or you will always be a threat to us. Nobody would agree to that. So it's absolutely insane that we would think that we would ask these demands and they just buckle and accept it. It's just not going to happen. Not after what we've done. So you might as well just accept that. Accept that dismantling a nuclear program is not going to happen. It never was, really, but it's certainly not now. And you might as well accept that they will more than likely try to at least have one nuclear weapon. Because for one, the one that was preventing that from happening, we assassinated. The one guy that was preventing that from happening, we assassinated. Because there have been reports that people within the IRGC and people under him were constantly trying to, suggest and pressure him to relieve that fatwa so that they could have a nuclear weapon. And he kept rejecting it. The one man who kept it from happening is no longer there. And the man that is now in control, his son, is in control after our aggressions and seeing not only his father killed, even though he was trying to agree to what we were asking for years, but also his mother and his sister and multiple other family members died. If he was not hardcore, which everything I've seen is that he was already more hardcore than his father. But if he wasn't, he most certainly is now. So we brought this upon ourselves. Karma is hitting us full-fledged. So anyways, thank you very much for joining me. Let me know what you think. And until next time, peace, ClearTalk. I'm out.